How's it going? So I'll try to explain how dopamine receptors, like how does the dopamine engine inside your brain works and why it is critical to stay away from high stimulus activities. So things like Monster Drink, League of Legends, some video games, drugs. So you will understand that it's not about how to make your life awesome, is not about finding a stronger stimulus, which is actually reverse of what you want. You want to fine tune your receptors so that small differences from your base are going to produce massive amount of units of fun. So things like, I'll explain in more detail further on, but things like sleeping well, having excellent diet, exercise, having good gut microbiome, all of that enriches the health index of your body and makes your dopamine receptors a lot more receptive. So what do I mean by this? Let's think about a simple example. Let's say an unhealthy person who is a, let's say, drug addict, right? They eat an apple. How many units of fun will apple produce in their brain? It will produce 0 units of fun. Why? Because their dopamine receptors are completely burned out. Completely burned out. So their brain cannot detect the difference between the base and an apple. Again, I will cover what the base versus apple is later. But just think about it. The brain is so desensitized to small changes that it can no longer detect. And now it just doesn't trigger anything. All right? Now, a healthy person, I'm talking about fine-tuned receptors. If you eat an apple, it will just like 5,000 units. And think of like units of fun, right? Units of fun. And we can say threshold is 10,000. That's your max. So it will just be like, oh my God, you just ate an apple. Like already 50% of pleasure triggered just from eating an apple. So that's why being healthy gives you massive satisfaction from life standards because of how this mechanism works. So again, like I was studying this a little bit, I was trying to find out how do I increase my dopamine production through study, and I realized that I was looking in the wrong direction, because it's not really about finding better stimulus, it's more about fine-tuning your receptors. And that's kind of, if you just want to kind of summary of the whole thing, avoid high stimulus activities that produce anything above 10,000. Like you can probably set up your own units of fun measure. If it's just, you can detect it. Like if you do an activity and all of a sudden other activities become super boring, that means that activity you should not do, because it means it's making your receptors a lot more desensitized. Okay, so you want to stay within threshold of what your brain considers normal. It's very hard to explain. Like I'm probably gonna make like a lot of videos on this, because I'm trying to kind of explain it in simple terms. I understand it in complexity, but trying to simplify it. The best way I can think about it is kind of like, that's why I like this example of crisps. Think about your tongue. If you eat crisps and Monster Drink all day long, what's happening to your tongue? Your receptors get burned because there's too much flavor. So what does your brain do? Your brain starts to desensitize your tongue receptors. Why does it do that? Because it needs to make sure that you don't overload the engine. Because if you overload the engine, it can break. So the brain and the body tries to calibrate itself so that you don't break it. Okay? So what it does is it makes your receptors less sensitive, because if you keep bombarding yourself with extreme overflavored food, it will start desensitizing your receptors to protect itself from overloading. It's kind of like, think of an engine. If it's too cold, it's not good. If it's too hot, it blows up. So that's exactly the same mechanism. It will calibrate itself so that you don't blow up your tongue receptors. Okay. Now, what's the downside of eating too many crisps and overflavored food? The problem is you will lose ability to taste food like apple, broccoli, rice, bananas, like anything in the world of normal that is not just jammed with salt, sugar, and fats and starches, right? And at that point, you can no longer enjoy an apple, you cannot enjoy a spinach leaf, because your tongue is just too desensitized. So that means your diet is now crisps and Monster drink. Anything else sucks. Okay? So now, let's take a step back and let's think about what happens if you only eat healthy food. I'm talking about apples, like fruits, vegetables, fish, proteins, lean proteins like chicken fillet, turkey fillet, cottage cheese, natural yogurts, beans, legumes, nuts. Your body will be extremely sensitive to the taste. So, for example, I gave one person a plum and he was like, man, it just tastes like rubber. But to me, it's very sweet. Why? Because my receptors are very fine-tuned. I don't eat crisps, I don't drink alcohol, I don't drink any fizzy drinks. So my brain can detect very clearly that this plum has taste and it's sweet. But his tongue cannot, because he keeps eating crisps and salty cheese and like Nutella and stuff like that, and beer. It's just too overflavored, so you lose ability to enjoy other foods. That's exactly the same mechanism that happens with your brain, and it's dopamine fun releasing receptors. So what happens, let me just think about it 1 second. Okay, so let me explain how it works. How does the engine work? First of all, you have baseline, which I set at 100. You can set any number, you can do 10. That's the baseline. This is what happens if you just breathe and don't do anything. There is no stimulus happening to you as a human being or as an entity. Now, when we start introducing stimulus, which is like eating, having fun, I don't know, like doing things, right? Your brain is going to compare the baseline to the stimulus. So if the baseline is higher, if the stimulus is higher than the baseline, your brain releases fun and says, do more of this activity. If the stimulus is lower than the base, your brain is going to release negative dopamine, units of fun. And it will tell you, do not do this activity because it's negative. Okay? So that's kind of, why does it do that? That's because you have to understand, and at simple level, you are at the end of the day a biological machine where you learn through pain and pleasure. If something is good, fun, it feels good, you want to do more of it. Your body rewards you, you want to do more of it. If something is painful, your body tells you not to do it. So think about it like if you put bugs into an environment where if something feels bad, they avoid it. If something feels good, they move towards it, right? So this similar primitive mechanism, because you have to remember that we evolved through long periods of time, and that mechanism is still there. Although right now logic replaces it, because, for example, your body, and this mechanism is very primitive, it's like reptilian brain mechanism, because it only thinks short term. So, for example, it will think that eating a Snickers bar is good because it releases a lot of dopamine, but it's not good for your body, but it can't detect it. So that's why you need to replace it with logic. That's why I tell people use logic, because this mechanism that you have inside is out of date and it's very easy to manipulate it. So if companies want to make money, they can very easily manipulate this mechanism if you're not aware of it. But okay, so that's why I'm making awareness, I suppose, of this thing. Okay, so now that we understand what the mechanism is, how it works. So look, if you eat an apple and you are a normal, healthy human, you will detect 5 difference and your brain is going to release a certain amount of fun, units of fun. Just think about units of fun. Okay, so we probably remove this, we don't need this. And then in here it will release the units of fun. So that 5 difference releases 2,500 units of fun. So you feel good. Oh my god, I ate an apple, it's amazing. I'm pumped, I'm ready to do things, right? I can feel the sugar in it. So you see, like, there are other activities that will release more. So let's say eating fruit, yogurts, and watching YouTube. For me, it's like base is 100, it moves me to 150, and I get like maximum units of fun. This is like, I'm like, oh my god, this is just euphoria for me. It's just complete ecstasy. Okay? Here's the problem. You have a threshold inside the brain at which too much becomes a problem for the brain, and it starts desensitizing this mechanism. So that if you, I'll explain it with cocaine example, all right? But just know this, that there is a threshold at which if it's too high, it will start tweaking your receptors and making them less receptive, so you never go past this 10,000. And the problem becomes, well, let me explain. Okay, so let's pause in here. Just be aware that there's a threshold of 10,000, which is your brain's says healthy range, no more than this. Anything exceeding this, it will start messing your receptors up. Okay, and the reason why it does that, again, because it's like an engine, it doesn't want to overheat it, because if it overheats, it can break, and then you gonna be in trouble. As an organism, you have to remember, your body is a homeostasis machine. It wants to keep everything in balance. Like things like, think about blood, right? Blood has about, what is it? I think 7 pH. One sec. Yeah, so you see, like, your blood pH is 7.35 to 7.45. So it will always keep your blood within that range. So think about this, exactly the same mechanism. It will keep it from 0 to 100 units of fun, 10,000 units of fun, no more, no less. Okay? If it's too little, it will start producing more by itself. If it's too high, it will start desensitizing your stimulus, your receptors, because it has to keep itself in balance to avoid breaking itself. Okay? So now let's look at cocaine example. If you hit yourself with cocaine, you get, so relative to base, you get like 5 times the base. This will increase, this will create like 100,000 units of fun. At this level, it will trigger the danger zone, because it's equivalent to moving this to like 10. Your body goes into an overload and starts activating defense mechanisms, and one of them is desensitizing your receptors extremely to get back to this 10,000 units of fun, which is considered normal. This is going to be very hard to explain, so my apologies, it's going to get very complex, but I'm trying to kind of, I'll eventually get, the more I process it, the more I will get it simpler framework for this, but right now, that's kind of where I'm at the moment. So just think about it. If it's too high, it will start desensitizing your receptors to get back to 10,000 from 100,000. So on your next, so I wrote this example here. So think about it. You hit yourself first time, it releases 100,000, way too high, because it needs to get back to target, which is 10,000. So what happens is it desensitizes your receptors. You hit yourself with cocaine next time, it's still gonna be good, but it's gonna be 75,000, but it's still too high. You see, it's because our target is this. We're gonna put difference in here. Wait, how's that? Oh yeah, I need to introduce target. Whoopsie. Okay, so what happens in here? It's like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, too high, desensitize. You hit yourself again. It's like, oh my god, too high, desensitize. You hit yourself again. Oh my god, too high, still desensitize. And you see, every time you hit yourself, your euphoria decreases, even though you're hitting yourself with same amount of cocaine, because the kind of like the heat decreases, like the units of fun decreases per hit, because your body is trying to get itself to the safe zone. At some point in time, that heat will produce absolutely nothing, because your body will simply become like it will desensitize itself to such a degree where that heat will be equivalent to eating an apple. It will do a little bit of something, but not really, right? Because you have desensitized your body to such extreme where you now need bigger stimulus to get back to feeling anything. So again, you're gonna double the dose of cocaine. It will produce, again, units of fun. Your body is going to be like, oh my god, that is way too high. We need to desensitize even more. And as you keep going, you can see like the rabbit hole that you're getting yourself into. At some point, you will be hitting yourself with double the dosage of cocaine, produces the same response as eating an apple. So again, you see, now you have to double your dose again just to get back to feeling anything. So why this process is dangerous is because when you start work, so you have to remember your base is 100 and you're hitting yourself with 1000, okay? That is a big jump. Like, think about the difference in here. You're talking about this minus this is like 900 units in difference, right? So your body becomes receptive to gigantic jumps. Going from 100 to 1000 is a humongous jump, right? What does that do? That means if you eat an apple, which gives you 105, difference is going to be 5. Your receptors are so desensitized, they will not feel anything. So that means it produces no units of fun. Like things like completing a task will produce no units of fun because your brain is just simply burned out, desensitized. One way I think about it is, one second. Another way to think about it is like, imagine you have, like, there are some people who walk barefoot on like concrete, okay? Think about walking barefoot on concrete. What happens is when you first walk barefoot on the concrete, it will hurt like hell. Why? Because your skin is too soft. And if you keep doing this, basically, if you keep walking on concrete barefoot, you will eventually wreck your body because the skin is too soft to be walking on concrete, because you will basically shred the skin off and then you start shredding the bone off. Your body does not like it. So what does the body do in response? It hardens the skin, right? And at some point in time, you can walk barefoot on the concrete and you will feel nothing. It will not be painful. It's completely fine. You can do it, right? Now, what's the side effect of that? If somebody tingles you with a feather, you feel nothing. Why? Because your skin is just way, 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 way too hardened. So it's the same in here. Think about cocaine as like, it's the same process. Cocaine is just such extreme level of stimulus that your body will start hardening your receptors because it's way, 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 way out of anything that body likes. So just like this is going to harden your receptors, and then eating an apple feels like absolutely nothing because it's like tingling you with a feather because it's just too hardened at this stage. So you just have to understand that this is the way that mechanism works, and don't mess with it, basically. So now let's think about reverse of this mechanism, okay? If we only walk on super soft surfaces, on extremely soft surfaces, at that point, if you walk on wood, it will be very, very sensitive. Like even soft wood, you'll be like, oh my god, that is just like way too hard. So do you understand the process? Your body will adapt to your environment whichever way you go. If you make it too much, it will desensitize. If you make it too little, it will become too sensitive. So in the world of dopamine, we want to make it too sensitive. Why? Because we want to be able to eat an apple and basically have a complete orgasm. If you can get to that level, and I'm getting very close to it, I'm talking about like I'm just like eating a carrot, and it's just like I thank God for creating this juicy sugar jammed vegetable that's actually good for you. It's like amazing. That's what I'm saying, is that you need to have very well calibrated receptors. So I'll give you an example, right? If somebody eats, I probably already spoke about it, but like, look, if somebody has normal receptors and they eat a banana, the units of fun is going to be 2,500. But if somebody with very fine-tuned receptors will get a lot more. I don't know, kind of like, I'm still kind of exploring this area, so I'm still learning exactly why that is. But the key is to get to the level where if your base is 100 and you, let's say, complete a task, I don't know, you read a book, right? You read a page in a book which gives you 101, your brain releases 5,000. That's like, oh my god, you're now genius level, because now you can do anything. You can study, you can work out, you can do exercises, you can eat anything within reason. And your body is so calibrated, it can detect small changes and rewards you for doing small things. And that's where you want to be, basically. So the key is not to try to look for bigger hits. The key is to calibrate your receptors to the level where small change from base produces massive amounts of units of fun. That's why you see, remember I talked about the kid where he was like playing League of Legends, chatting on, what was that program everybody uses? There is WhatsApp and then Discord. There you go. He was chatting on Discord, watching YouTube, listening to music, and drinking Monster drink all at the same time. So you see, he is like in this category, and if you talk to him, he's like, how was your day? He was like, yeah, it was normal. He says exactly the same thing as if I studied. So for him, doing that would be equivalent to like eating an apple, if you keep doing it over long periods of time, because again, your body is just going to desensitize itself. So at that point, he needs to, I don't know, at that point, because look, like you're playing League, you're doing Discord, watching YouTube, drinking Monster drink. At that point, you have to start adding, like, I don't know, some stimulants. And think about this person. If you give him a book to read, he will get so bored and so disinterested in the activity, because it's just, because you have to understand that, like, we're going, reading a book is like from 100 to like 101 probably. Like, his brain is used to going from 100 to 10,000. So reading a book, like, and even at that level, from 100 to 10,000, he still produces 10,000 units of fun. So him going from 100 to 101 will produce absolutely nothing, and it's going to be omega boring. This is why I'm saying that in League of Legends, that's one thing I notice. As soon as you start playing League of Legends, everything else sucks. That's why I call it drugs, because it has exactly the same effect on the brain as heavy drugs. Now, the good news is that with things like cocaine, you can literally damage your receptors. But with League, 3 days and receptors are back to normal, right? So it's kind of, it is within, I would put it in a drug, I would put it into light drug category, but it's not like as heavy as cocaine. But again, I have not played League of Legends for long periods of time. Maybe for people that have been playing it for 10 years, maybe they are already doomed, basically. It could be the case. Could be the case. But of course, even in cocaine people, over long periods of time, like 5 to 10 years, you can always get your receptors back. Because even if your skin is like super hardened, over time, you have to remember your body will balance itself out based on your kind of DNA structure and DNA code, get it back to its normal. It's kind of like, another way to think about it is bodybuilding. As soon as you start working out, your body will reduce itself to what it wants to be, because it has set points, and then it will bring you back there. But but if you keep training, it will harden itself. So again, this mechanism in here, if you burn it out, I'm almost certain is reversible. So if you are like stuck in here right now and everything sucks, unless you're drinking Monster Drink, playing League of Legends, watching adult content at the same time, and chatting in Discord, and gambling at the same time, I'm almost certain you can do it in like 1 to 5 years. You can get your receptors back to normal. Okay, so again, the key to the whole thing is not to look for stronger stimulus, is to make your receptors so sensitive that small change from your base triggers massive amounts of units of fun. And that's the whole secret. And the way to do that is good sleep, good diet, and then exercise. Good sleep, which is get a CPAP machine if you need, at least 8 hours. Just basically go to YouTube and find like Matthew Walker or Harvard, kind of like just research what is good night's sleep. Like getting yourself a good bed, getting yourself a good mattress, earplugs, the eye cover, stuff like that. Right? Make sure that it's like deep sleep and your body is recovering really well. And it has to be 8. I sleep like 10 and a half. 10 to 10 and a half every single day. And it's like life-changing stuff. Good diet, I mean, just follow the usual with fruits, vegetables, legumes, at least 30 different items per week. Eat the rainbow, lean proteins, cottage cheese, stuff like chicken fillet cuts, turkey fillet cuts, chicken fillet, cottage cheese, fish like sardines, mackerel, salmon, olive oil, stuff like that. But there is loads of advice on good diet. You know what good diet is like. Just stay away from crisps, and I mean, crisps are not even food, to be honest with you. It's like candy. McDonald's is not food, it's candy. So you need to eat proper food, and definition of food is, yeah, so there you go. Food is substance consists essentially of protein, carbohydrate, fats, and other nutrients used by body or organism to sustain growth and vital processes. and to furnish energy. So stuff like French fries is not food because they do not help you grow and sustain vital processes. In fact, they do the opposite, because what they do is they start messing up with your insulin levels. Same with Monster drink. It's the same with over flavored stuff which messes up your tongue receptors. Like they're doing now. They give you the hit, but again, I explained it to you. It's like it's not a sustainable long-term solution, because at some point your body will force you back into this 10,000 threshold, and at that point even crisps will not feel like anything. So you need to eat proper food, and you need to do research on what proper food is. Exercise, again, you can do very simple walking. You need to do 150 minutes per week, which is like what, 23 minutes per day. Light walk. I do basically walk for 25 minutes every single day, and then 3 times a week I do a circuit, which is 1 second. Yeah, so there is, I just do 2 of those. So do push-ups. I'm currently on 9 push-ups. Immediately do squats, immediately bent over row. I use 10 kilos, which is 2 5-liter water bottles basically. Glute bridges, again push-ups. Overhead presses, I take 2 5-liter bottles, 5 kilos, and then do plank for 45 seconds. And then I do that 1 more time. And that's it. This takes 15 minutes to do. 3 times a week, which is Tuesday, Friday, and Sunday. And that will get you jacked, because when I look in the mirror, I'm like, holy smokes. Such small amount of input, massive results. You will have better energy. It's like there was some argument where people are like, oh yeah, but like if you just factor in this 25 minutes plus 15 minutes, so it takes about 1.5 hours per day. If you average it out, it's probably going to be 1 hour per day, and multiply that every single day. It's going to be like throughout your lifetime, it's going to be like 7 years. And they say, well, I'll just keep the exercise and leave 7 years. But you have to understand the problem with thinking like that. Exercise affects all of your aspects of life, and it makes you sleep better, it makes you more focused, more motivated, and again, it makes your receptors more receptive, it makes them more receptive, right? So again, if you don't exercise, when you eat an apple, it might release only 2,000 units of fun. But with exercise, it might release 2,500 to 3,000 units of fun. So even breathing with exercise produces more fun than without exercise, because the receptors are more fine-tuned. Your body is just way better. It functions better. So highly recommend all of this stuff. Honestly, this is like a total hack. This stuff here, it's like completely revolutionary stuff. No amount of cocaine, no amount of computer games will ever get you to the amount of fun that you get per day if you have this stuff in order. Because you have to remember, like junkies, yes, in the first 3 months, they get higher utility than a person in here. But over long periods of time, you have to remember, they, like think about it, okay? Think about it this way. Let's do a simulation of 10. Well, let's do. Okay, let's do, I don't know, 20 days, 15 days, okay? Okay, so here he gets his cocaine, he gets 5,000 units of, well, let's say he gets, I don't know, 5,000 units of fun. Then it becomes like 2,000, then it becomes 0, then he needs again to get the hit, he needs to increase his cocaine. I'm talking about the dosage. He needs to increase the dosage. This cycle is going to repeat itself. At some point, he will reach a dosage so high it might become it might become toxic to the body. So you have to understand there is a limit to how much cocaine you can take as a human. First of all, it's very expensive. Second of all, there is a limit to how, like, if you just take too much, you just die, right? So at some point, he will simply reach zero, and then he will run into a problem where nothing he does except for cocaine produces any amounts of fun at all. Okay? Whereas a healthy person who keeps getting better over time will eventually, well, he's probably gonna start at like, he's probably gonna be like smaller, like something like this. Whoops. It will look something like this. And then he will just carry on like this. So you see, if you just sum up, whoops. Whoopsie. But you get the idea, like in the beginning, yes, in the beginning cocaine people will have higher utility in the first 3 months, but as this process keeps going, whoops. No, this has to be 0 at the end because he will reach the max capacity. Because he will no longer be able to use cocaine because cocaine now reached the dosage of toxicity level. And because there's really, like, what are you going to do after cocaine? There's really nothing that you can do. And your receptors are completely burned. So almost nothing is going to work on you. At that point, it's probably suicide. That's what's going to happen. Whereas in here, this is sustainable. You're going to keep going. And you see, like, over time, over like 20 years, this number is going to be like in millions. Whereas this guy is going to get stuck on like 50,000 and then that's it. But it's true. In the beginning, he will get higher dopamine and euphoria than a healthy person. It's kind of like gambling. Think about gambling, right? In the first like couple of days, when you get, you got lucky, you get colossal payoff on your return on investment. Colossal. You'll be like, oh my god, I just doubled my money in like whatever, in like 2 days. Then you do it again, you're like, oh my god, right? Whereas an index fund investor gets his 7%, well, not 7, but about 12% per year. It will take him about 4 years to double his money. But you have to remember, he has now doubled his money, and next 4 years he's going to double the doubled money. So now he's going to 4x his money in about 8 to 10 years, right? So now he quadrupled his money with a 0 risk. Whereas the guys in here, they tend to, oh my god, I doubled my money in 2 days, and then they lose all of it, and then they try to repeat the cycle, and again they have 0. So you see, like, they're kind of like junkies who are trying to win it big. They lose everything. They try to do it again. They lose everything. Eventually, they just run out of money. Or they become gamblers and they're just addicted to the slot machine. And they always, every single time, they start losing money. Whereas these guys, consistently, little by little, over long periods of time, you always win. That's why, like, one of the most famous, I suppose, stories that demonstrate this really well was the rabbit and the turtle. I think it's a tortoise versus the hare story. One sec. Yeah, so it's a very simple story where the rabbit is like super fast, and then he was making fun of the turtle, how slow it is, and then basically it ran super fast, became super tired, so it decided to take a nap and thought to itself, nah, this slow turtle, there's no way it's going to beat me. So it fell asleep, and then the turtle, while this guy was sleeping, just finished the race and won. And then the rabbit woke up and was like, oh my god, what have I done? Do you understand? So slow and steady wins the race. You don't have to be super fast like rabbit. You just have to be consistently slow and medium pace. And trust me, you will outperform 99%, I'll go as far as say 99.9% of population. That's how people become super rich. That's how bodybuilders do it. That's how people accumulate wealth. That's how people become PhD professors. That's how people become super successful, right? It's just, it's the most stable formula there is. All right, I'll leave you at that. Slow and steady wins the race. Take care. Bye-bye.